Hi guys, good afternoon. How are you all doing? Ah, it's been a very intense week for me, and I honestly am feeling a bit scattered. I was just speaking to Zoya, and I think we share the same. You know, the last live we did on education, I started off by asking everyone to think of my friend Craig Williams, in prayer, him and his family. And sadly, Craig passed away on Sunday. So I'm I'm lost. I don't have words. I really don't have words. But when persons extend condolences to me, I'm very grateful for that. But I will say this: I would say I feel as though condolences does not belong to me alone. It belongs to the entire community of St. Martin, because Craig was not just a friend to me, he was a friend to everyone. The loyalty he showed me is the loyalty he showed to everyone. The life he brought to every time he showed up, he brought life. He was always jovial. He was always, I don't know, just he had an excitement. But for me personally, as I mentioned before, I have known Craig for over 20 years. Over 20 years. Just when I started high school, is when I met Craig, and I left high school 17 years ago, just so you can have an idea of how long, we are friends. We know each other. And Craig was someone who, and I didn't see every day or every week or not even every month, even though we lived so close to each other, because everyone is just in their zone. But whenever we meet, it was like there were no space or time in between. Craig supported me every single thing over the past several years that I've done. In 2013, I was named Women of the Year for a particular organization, and the heading was Guyanese born Keoma Hamer, Woman of the Year XYZ in New York. And I, I got there was a bit of comment on that. So Craig was there, and he put in another friend of ours, and they were just there, responding to these comments on my behalf without even me saying anything. So that's who Craig is in 2014. If you notice on my Facebook page, you will notice I have on my Facebook profile, there's a picture of me hugging him. That was Craig at one of my events in 2014. We hosted a gala dinner at Westin Hotel, a teal and white for cervical cancer. And Craig came all dressed in the colors. And I'm telling you, he has been supportive ever since of the way last year, as my personal situation with regards to my twins became very, very public. If you go on Craig's Facebook profile right now, his profile picture is my picture, Justice for Keoma. And he's no longer here, but my picture is there. So that shows you who he really is. Craig is just an exceptional person. Cassie, your mom, uh, your family, his son. Like I honestly am, I am really touched by this. I really am. But nevertheless, there is so much that is happening and that has been happening over the past few months since 2020 started. I have no clue what has been going on. We started gaffing. I started gaffing as a platform, not just to entertain, not it's not to entertain, but basically to inform, as a platform to support, as a platform to educate, as a platform to bring the information to you, whatever I think that is necessary. And I am someone who is very, very intrigued by the way how communities function, the way how people cope regardless of the challenges they face. I'm very, 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 very intrigued by that. So I observe people, I observe societies, and I ask questions and I seek for on my own. You know, what exactly needs to be done for us to bridge these gaps? How can we improve someone's life experiences? What can be done? And some people might think, oh, you need to give them $1 or $2,000 or whatever the amount is. But really and truly, most times we just need that human touch. You know, so this platform is to really bridge gaps, to discuss issues that we face on a daily basis and beyond, and to not just discuss it, but inform, to create solutions and discuss ways of how we can improve our current situation, and how can we move forward better. That's the idea. How can we move forward better? How can we highlight ills in our society, do whatever it takes to fix them and move forward better and support each other? Yeah. There are some persons who will not reach out to people and say, hey, you know what, I need help, or I have a little thing here that really bothers me. Can you help me? Some persons aren't like that. So the hope is that platforms like Gyhaffin can really and truly reach persons. And that's the reason why I keep asking. If you have any questions whatsoever, if you don't want to comment, you can contact me directly. There is an email address, Amoek Media, that's AMOEK Media @gmail.com. You can send us your questions, your experiences, share your experiences with us, and just let us know. Let's see how we can assist you, even if it's behind the scenes. But the hope is that conversation like what we'll be having today will resonate with you, each and every one of you, and will be able to allow you to move forward with your life and to lift you up even higher. Yeah. So, on our second episode of Gyhaffin, we hosted a, a phenomenal talk on self-care. We highlighted various aspects of self-care, and with persons actually engaged, persons were like, listen, you know what, Keoma, you need to do this again. You need to focus on mental health, which is psychological, emotional health. We need to focus on spiritual health. Again, we need to focus on financial health also. So with that, I was very much intrigued by what by the responses I received, very much intrigued. But at the same time, I said, you know what, this is exactly what the plan is, because we have to sensitize our community first. This is my belief. I do not just want to bring it in and just dive straight in and go deep. I want to be able to have that basic groundbreaking, like I call it an icebreaker conversation, so we can touch base to sensitize exactly, you know, what is agriculture? How do we engage in agriculture? What exactly is self-care and the issues of education moving forward? And now that we have already done that, have that basic conversation, now we'll be dissecting just a little bit in the areas where we see the need is more, right? I mean, there's always a need, but in the times we have been living in, we definitely need to discuss even more on mental health, because people are, we, let me include myself, we are experiencing so much. COVID came. Before COVID, we all had our lives. I, for sure, the whole world the whole world knows I have been dealing with something for so long, and it's that's just a whole nother reality. All right. But regardless, I'm a human being as well. And I deal with things my own way. I've learned how to cope with my own situations. Is it the best way? Some people might think not. But for me, it works for me. But I still have my struggles. And I want you to know that I am absolutely no different from each and every one of you. Not because you don't see me talking, or may not see me as often. It does not mean that I do not have my highs, nor I do not have my lows. I'm a human being as well. All right. And just like me, there's so many persons. When before COVID, we were dealing with persons were dealing with, whether it be breakup in marriages, whether it be financial circumstances, various things, family issues, regardless of what it is. We all have our own story. We all have our own experiences. So in this episode, I intentionally decided, of course, with the backings of so many persons who have been following, who basically endorsed it, I had to get Zoya back here so we can dive deeper into psychological and emotional self-care. I really believe we need it. I really believe we need it. There are persons who passed away, so many people in the world who were affected by COVID and died. We all know that. And even though in our communities, hundreds and thousands of persons may not have died, but the fact that we are looking at news every single day, the fact that we are seeing persons are losing their jobs and they're not able to provide for their family the way that they were accustomed to. During COVID, I received messages of persons who hadn't eaten in 2 or 3 days. You know, I use my little contact to say, hey, I can't get up, but persons who had a past, how can we at least get some food to these people? You know what I mean? So there are persons who will smile every single day you see them on the road, but you have absolutely no idea what they're going through. So today's talk is to reach everyone, and even more so for persons who feel as though they're alone. I cannot tell you that you're not alone because I understand what that feeling is like. But I want you to know that there is a place you can come here in Gyhaffin. And even if you did not tune in live, you can always replay our video and really, dive in and be honest with yourself. Because if you want to get better, you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be willing, be really, really willing to move forward. All right, to heal yourself, because this is something that I always say. I always say this. It does not matter what is happening in the world. It matters not what people do to you or have done to you. No one has control of you except yourself. You cannot want to have control of your household if you cannot control yourself. You are not able to control yourself, your body, if you're not able to control your mind. It all starts here in your mind. You have to make a decision. And the moment you make that decision, to take control of yourself and to remain in control of yourself, here, then you'll be able to understand the movements of your body. It sounds insignificant, but all of a sudden you will realize the way in which you walk, the way in which you talk, the way in which you sit, the way in which you engage with other people. You will become more cognizant, more present. And when you become more present, it makes you more aware. And when you become more aware, you're able to decipher yourself, and you'll be in a better control of your own environment. But it all starts with a decision to say, hey, admit certain things to yourself and be willing consciously to do something about it. So Zoya is again, as a phenomenal young lady, born and raised in St. Martin. And we had her, quote unquote, do her thing on our second live. So without any, I'm trying to get her up here, but without any further ado, we will, dive into to Zoya. And I would encourage persons, should you have any at all questions while looking at our live right now, feel comfortable to just let us know. Comment in the live, and let us just act. Let's just engage. This is a conversation today where we'll engage with everyone. All right. So Zoya.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's really good to be back. Thank you always for allowing me on your platform. It's truly appreciated because this is what I advocate for. So if I have an opportunity to have a conversation about it and, advocate for it, I'm always thankful. And thank you for making the time during even your own life and situations, experiences that you're going through right now, that you remain diligent and dedicated. So good job.
Thank you very much. You're most welcome. It's as I said, it's so necessary for conversations like this to happen. We sometimes, when you for sure, because of your profession, you for sure know the stigma when you hear mental health. I myself had mental health. Are you telling me that I'm crazy? So
Yes.
there's a stigma, and the people in our society is not even, I don't think they're aware in the manner in which we speak. It really throws it out there to another person, and the person feels as if something is wrong with them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, how can we approach the stigma of mental illness? How can we just like, what can we do to get rid of it?
Yeah, it's funny because that was actually, I just wrote it down, like mental health is real. So if you're under the sound of my voice right now, say out loud, mental health is real.
Mental health.
Yeah, and
Mental
we wake up in the morning, we know we're hungry, we know when we have to use the bathroom, we know when we maybe our jeans don't fit us anymore, we have to, shed some weight. We know when we have to go to work, we know when we have responsibilities, we know when we have to pick up the kids. All of those things are real. Mental health is just the same. Sometimes you wake up, your throat itching you, and you're like, boy, let me go do my lime and my honey, right? But sometimes it persists, and you're like, oh, shoot, I got to go to the doctor. I have to make an appointment to go to the doctor. That is exactly the way mental health manifests, where you may be going through a stressful time in your life. You may have lost something, a person, time, opportunity, because grief, when we say loss and grief, we don't always mean death of a person. Because sometimes grief can manifest when you lose, as I said, marriage, time, you lost an opportunity. Some people grieve the fact that they didn't get to go to college, they didn't get to go to school, and all of those things. So all of those things manifest inside. That's why you cry, you feel irritable, you feel angry. Sometimes your head is so full you can't sleep at night, your thoughts are racing. All of that is under the umbrella of mental health. And all of those things are real. So when we talk about mental health, the first thing people think is, but I'm crazy. You're right. Because what is crazy, right? So we don't look at someone who goes to the doctor for an illness as a leper. We don't look at that person as somebody who we have to stay away from or who we have to ostracize. Exactly with mental health. You're not crazy. Seeking help doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you inferior. It makes you mature. It makes you wise, that you understand something is happening in your life and you need help with it. Does everybody need to go to a therapist or to a psychiatrist? I think everybody should have a therapist, just in general, because, just like everybody has a GP, but everybody does not need to go to therapy, because some people have really good primary support groups, family, friends, those types. But sometimes you don't have that. So there are professionals who can do that for you. So again, destigmatizing mental health is understanding that it is just as real and as normal as every other aspect of your life. And the only reason we're afraid of it is because we think that it's this scary thing, that we think that we're gonna get an injection, we think that we're gonna get a needle, we think that we have to take medication. Those are untruths, okay? Not everybody needs medication. Everybody, if you go to the doctor for a flu, your doctor is not going to put you on chemo because you don't need it, right? So when we normalize these conversations, when we say out loud that mental health is real and it's normal, when we start expressing these views, take up a challenge on your Facebook page today or this week. At least one time a day, do some little research and post one fact about mental health. Because you're here listening to this conversation. I see 53 people here right now. So that's 53 of you guys who are willing to learn and understand about mental health. And it takes 53 of you to touch 53 more people. That's 106 people, right? And then we start spreading more of the conversation that we have to take better care of ourselves mentally, because it's normal. It's a part of our life. That was a long-winded answer.
I see, the thing is, I do not I do not basically transcribe too long, but it was informative. It's what was necessary, right? So because remember, we want to be able to not give short responses, but allow persons to really understand. So I, for one, I am someone I like to explain things because I've experienced before where I give short responses and persons will say, yeah, but you said this. And I said, no, I didn't say that. So because of that, I've learned how to really and truly, and I know it's annoying to some persons, but after I explain to you, you cannot say that you didn't that you don't
Right.
understand. Detail, detail, detail. And sometimes, we assume that by the way in which we speak, the person will understand us. But we I think it's a responsibility upon ourselves to really, because we are the ones who are informing. We really and truly need to dissect layer by layer and explain to persons what is meant, because for us, what is, oh, but that's you don't know that, you know we
Yeah.
may think that way, but another person may really not know. So it's our
Right.
responsibility, because we took upon ourselves this platform. So it's our responsibility to really and
Mm-hmm.
truly engage as deep as possible. So we touch base on grief. There, in everything, as you mentioned just now, grief exists in everything. It does not necessarily mean death, as you mentioned. So I'm asking persons, how are you grieving, or how have you been grieving? To the viewers, I like to read your comments. How have you been grieving, and what have you been really grieving about, and how have you been coping? Because as you mentioned also, and I agree with you, a lot of times persons believe grieving is the loss of someone that they love through death. But grieving really and truly comes in various forms. And I you would not even think about it in that sense unless the conversation happens. The
Yes.
conversation has to
Mm-hmm.
happen first. So we highlight grieving. So here is it now. I will give you a scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Right now, I'm experiencing a loss of a friend, right? And his death really and truly moved me. His illness moved me because he's us, he's me, he's everyone. And the mere fact, because I know myself, I have goals, I have desires, and I would want the opportunity to live my full potential. I would
Mm-hmm.
want that opportunity. So I grieve more for that, for him. There are
Yeah.
persons also right here throughout the region. They lost their family members every day. But imagine in a case of death. I know of a situation whereby a gentleman was tested positive for COVID, and he had to have gone to another island for treatment. And while over there, he passed away, and his body did not return home. How
Oh,
does a family, right? How does a family grieve that? Like, how do you really cope with something like that? Because you have no closure.
right. And um, it's not new that uh, COVID has made it almost normal that people don't get closure,
Mm,
right? A lot of people who may have had people gone missing, and they haven't found the person in 15, 10, 20 years, have no closure. They don't even know if the person is really gone or the person just moved across the world,
mm,
right?
mhm.
But COVID has made it a reality where we know the person is gone, but we don't get to have a sending off, a gathering, a ceremony. We don't get to have funerals. We don't get to see them one last time. So it's like, how do we prepare for this? Because this isn't the natural thing for everybody. It was probably 2 and 100
Yeah.
before. But now the number has significantly increased. So we always start out with first accepting, right? Accepting that this is what it is. And I always have to put a disclaimer that when I say that, to not think, oh, but she's being insensitive. No, this is just the steps that we follow. And then once we understand the steps that we have to follow, then of course we go back and we talk it out, we flesh it out. But understanding that your 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 person, your family member, your loved one has passed away from COVID, okay? And that you're not going to get to say goodbye. Got to pull the brakes right there because it's like, no, right? You really feel it that you're not going to get to say goodbye. Why? Why am I not going to get to say goodbye? Because probably this person is off island, so they're not going to send them back. You cannot risk you contracting COVID because the person has it. And also, you know, you may not be able to bury this person because a lot of people had that as well, where they weren't able to bury because they had to cremate, right? So for some religious purposes, that was even hard for people because they don't want to burn their person's body. They have to have a burial typically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really first accepting and really sitting with that. The second part of that is allowing yourself to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Be angry about it. Be sad about it. Be like, feel what you feel because it's right.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get what you wanted. You don't get that sense of closure that you wanted,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now you kind of have to now reroute your brain to do something that you weren't prepared to do. So it's also lowering the expectation that, you know, I really did want to have it. And in some ways, you can still have it, right? So being creative, because sometimes you do have to become creative when a pandemic whips you,
Yeah.
that you can still have a ceremony. It might be 6 months delayed. It might be with fewer people. It might be in a place where you don't want it to be. But in any way that you can manage this or fix it, fill this or cope with this, be creative with it. Accepting it, allowing yourself to feel whatever you do. Because some people will tell you, but girl, it don't matter. It's okay. You know, put it at the foot of the cross. God going, no, I'm mad. And you get to be mad about it. The third is with the first two accomplished, the third is understanding that it doesn't have to be as bad as it is because you can find ways to cope with it and to manage with it, whether, as I said, as creating a new form of closure of sending off, you know, or even if you don't want to, then having something private with yourself, having a picture, not necessarily a shrine, but having a picture of the person or allowing yourself that moment to do that because yeah, death is final, right? So finding ways to cope with it.
Okay, very good. So now, okay, so that's grief. We highlighted grief in terms of death, and I see here Ingrid Nadal Rumbly. She mentioned, uh, good days and bad days, just like any other grief. You know, first we may say that, you know, we may say that, oh, it's just a good day and a bad day today, but for some people, they are not able to get themselves even grasp the reality of what took place.
Yeah.
And it does not mean, I'm not talking necessarily about death, but their circumstances. A lot of times persons lives within their realm of their thoughts and they have no clue how to escape their own mind. Before you know it, they're in the world, but they're in another world as well. So they're here and they're still not here. They're hearing you, but they're still not hearing you. So each and every one of us, we deal with things, our highs are different. I have my highs and I have my lows. You know, this is a very honest conversation. And over the years, I've had to really go through that. But what I've allowed myself, we all have circumstances, and circumstances comes with things that associate them, emotions that comes with them. Everything comes, so much things comes out of it. But me personally, I have started to allow myself. I tell myself, you know what? It's okay. This comes with the territory. And I accept it because I can't escape it. It comes with the territory. So when I have my lows, I give myself permission to have a low. I'm conscious of what I'm doing, because there are some times where I'm just in my own space and I've been this way for a while, but I give myself permission consciously. However, I make sure I remain in control. Meaning, people might say, okay, but how do you remain in control? I allow myself to remain in control, because after a day or two, I'm like, you know what? Okay, Keoma, you have to grab yourself. You have to go. We have to go. So I allow myself to experience whatever I was experiencing in that moment. But I had to, my mind have to be stronger to make sure that I am remain in control of myself. So
Mhm.
that's, let me see, so that's one thing. We can, for persons who want to reach out to us after to have a one-on-one, you can always do that. Yeah. um Let me see. Audra said it's important to acknowledge the pain that is felt and the truth about what was experienced, and I agree with that. And that's where we discuss about what are the specific triggers, identifying triggers. So,
Mhm.
Zoya, can you touch base on that, please? Just picking up from Audra's comments.
Yeah. And I think to loop and piggyback off of what you said, with you allow yourself to have your lows and to experience what you're experiencing. First, that takes you being present. That
Mhm.
I know I am going through a pretty rough time right now, and I am going to allow myself to feel. So let's try and keep it a little current. I know I lost my job and I am stressed about finances. I'm
Mhm.
going to allow myself to understand that that's real and that's okay. Now,
Mhm.
you also said you allow yourself to feel it for a period of time.
Yeah.
One thing we want to, if you're taking notes or anything, one thing we always want to manage is that we're not being consumed by what we're experiencing. If you're in a low, you have to figure out, okay, I'm feeling what I'm feeling, but what's next? We don't have to rush there. We don't, some people go through a really tough situation and then they want to pick up and go. We don't want to rush there. We're not saying, well, hey, we're giving you 3 days and then after 3 days. No.
Mhm.
Okay. So how much time are you gonna give yourself to stay there?
Mhm.
Because we don't want it to consume us, because the minute it's consuming us, we're not in control anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And so some situations are tough, but another way we can kind of tackle this is, what perspective are we going to take on? Okay.
Mhm.
I play video games, and so I like to let life is synced to video games, where in a video game you start out at level 1. And we all know that there's usually a boss at the end of the game that you have to turn over the game for. But between level 1 and the boss level, there are probably about 50 levels in total. So there are 48 levels in between. Okay?
Mhm.
Within those levels, you're gaining experience,
Mhm.
you're gaining stamina,
Mhm.
you're gaining new weapons to bulk yourself up, so that by the time you get to the main boss, you're equipped.
Yeah.
That's life. Throughout life, you have to equip yourself with skills so that by the time you get to the big boss, you're not consumed and beaten by him. Okay? So you're going through a really tough situation. This is level 10, where you're like, I never see this flying monster before. What do I do? Okay? You might get hit a couple of times, but each time you get hit by that monster, you go back the second time, you learn, because you understand what his moves are. You begin to predict. Okay? So I'm using that example to say that in life, take the perspective of, I'm going into this and I'm going to learn something from it. I'm going to come out of it with something and not be consumed by it. So
Mhm.
you build skills, you build you reach out to resources, you do research, you ask questions, you pay attention to yourself, where you can learn to cope and learn to deal, so that by the time you go through certain situations, you're
Mhm.
not hit as hard and you don't stay down as long.
Yeah. I to complement what you said, Zoya, one thing I also believe is, regardless of our challenges, regardless of what they may be, all right, we have to really be honest with ourselves. We have to be realistic. It's important to be realistic and not be living in our heads and be dreaming, all right? We have to ask ourselves where our power lies. And I do that all the time. I need to identify, we need to identify where our strength lies. What is in my power that I can do, and what is it that I would need assistance with? What I can do, I'm able to identify my own strength, my own power. Okay, this is what I can do, and I take notes. All right, so I will get a notepad and I will write them down. This is where my strength lies. This is what I can do on my own. This is the control I have. And for the areas where I have no power there, or I may need assistance to reinforce that, I then say, okay, who do I need to make this possible? All right.
Yeah.
So in that, I am able to identify where, not only where my power lies, but where I can pull myself back. And when I am able to really dig within myself and see that, identify that, it means that I have control. So even though I may have a low day or a high day, or the entire world may be looking so gloomy, I know where my strength lies. And I want to encourage persons, you really have to know where your strength lies. I see here, Stacy and Taylor wrote, for some people, it's not easy. With the right people in their life that they can trust, they will overcome. And that's a thing too. That's a thing too. We need to also know, first of all, who is right. Like, you have to know who your circles are, right? Who is right in your circle or not. How do you even begin to identify who is right? You have to know who you are as a person, and where your boundaries lie. What principles and morals you stick by. Zoya, you agree with that?
Yeah, I was reading her comments and I was gonna comment on it as well, where in the field of psychology, having a primary support group, what we call it, as I said, family and friends, sometimes religious leaders even, that is usually, that sets off a good prognosis for a person. If a person has a good primary support group, that person has a much better chance at recovery, because as Stacey said, these people are around you and they build a community with you where you're able to understand that it's okay and that they support you safely, of course. And that's what you also said, who is right. So people know who are in their life who don't add value to them. Sometimes they may not want to admit it, but you can usually tell who you can go to in certain crises or certain experiences in your life. And I always encourage people, and I remember from our last live, Candy.
Oh yeah.
Candy was saying the same thing, like, listen, if somebody is not adding value to your life, if they are toxic, if every time you go around them, you lose energy rather than gain energy, done that.
Yep.
Because you have to have a community and a village. From our last live, Candy.
Oh yeah.
Candy was saying the same thing, like, listen, we're having a little bit of, somebody is not adding value. Okay, yeah, I think we're good now. Yeah, lost my train of thought. Yes, you have to have a community and a village, right? And it ensures that when you don't know how, that you can reach out to people who can. When you can't get out of bed, these people can come and say, hey, what do you need today? How can they support you? Even for me, sometimes I study this, I have a degree, and sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing in my own life. Like, I gotta reach out to people and say, hey, can you help me? Can you help me process this? Can I bounce this idea off of you? I have this way about me that I don't understand. And I just want to, I ask people, like, am I annoying sometimes? Like, do I come off as this sometimes? My family always tells me I'm too sensitive. I'm always just like, yeah, but I don't know how to not be sensitive. So I rely on them to kind of point out to me, okay, Zoya, you're doing it again, right? So it's really about having community, and it's important that it's safe and tight. So if these people are in your life and you don't feel safe and you don't feel like they're really there, then you need to get them out.
I agree with that. I think what happens is trust. And sometimes, a lot of times we feel, because someone is close to us, they may be family, they may be someone who you grew up with, you may feel, oh my God, I can trust that person. But as we get older, we need to also realize we need to even look in our own circle to see if trust really lies there, or if the trust we the trust is kind of subliminal, or if we created that thought, that subliminal thought that, okay, man, I could trust that person. But you have to also look deep into, say, hey, can I really trust this person or trust this group of people,
Yeah. I
a lot.
just saw a question where from Celeste where she's asking what advice can we give to people who don't have a support system and
Mm,
who have no access to mental health services.
mm,
That's
mm.
tough because if you don't have a support system and you have no access, all I'm gonna say is Google.
Yes.
Okay? But
Mm,
before Google, not having a support system kind of means that you're alone,
yeah.
right? And sometimes being alone isn't always bad when you like yourself. Okay?
Mhm.
When you like who you are, you love who you are, you take care of yourself, you foster growth and evolution in yourself, it's okay. You can exist in the world and be okay.
Mhm.
Now, to do that, you require certain resources. So sometimes go to Google, go to YouTube. I love YouTube. Like I follow like family vloggers on YouTube and I feel like I'm a part of their family because it just takes up some of my time, right? And then you learn different family dynamics. You learn about different people. YouTube has so many things. People who have gone through certain mental health challenges, they tell their stories. And so if you don't have a support system, you don't have access to mental health services, first look inside and develop that self-love.
Mhm.
Learn to like yourself and learn to like being with yourself. Second is go to resources that are free and available, and utilize them. And
I,
by that, you might learn to maybe go out. When you go out to for lunch or you go to something, you might see somebody and then you can say, hey, you want to be my friend? Like, of course, and not in a creepy way, but where you're able to then look for people who you can. Second is go to resources that are,
yeah.
yeah.
But I also think, I also believe, even though we are alone, are we ever really alone? There must be some person
God. I mean,
there.
not
You
everybody.
said God.
Yes.
There must be.
But
There
not
must
everybody
be.
believes in God, so we have to be
I believe.
inclusive.
I believe there must be at least one person. Because we can be online and looking at YouTube videos and on Google, but we need some kind of human identity. We
We
need to
do.
be able to touch base. And I can tell you, I have those. I have friends. I Okay, I am someone who is very protective of my space. Very, very protective of my very, very protective of my space. And some persons would say, hey, what are you doing? Let's come. I'm gonna come by you and hang out. And I'm like, wait, come by me and hang out? Oh, why?
Yes.
Like, why? No, 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 no. We will meet on the road and we will hang out. The reason why my home is my sanctuary. When I'm
Absolutely.
here, I am here. This is my space. And the moment something comes in and tamper with the energy of my space, I feel so vulnerable. I feel so gutted. I'm so particular with who I let into my space. And the space is not necessarily just my home, it's just me. Like, this
Yes.
is the space. So we
Yes.
have to be protective, very, very protective of that. But there should be at least some human being that we can also reach out to, not
Yeah.
bombard them. I mean, there are times where I bombard my people, but there must be someone. But I
Mhm.
think in small communities, we fear, we honestly fear actually opening up and sharing with persons,
Yeah.
because everyone know everybody. And I can tell you, I have experienced this. And I was like, oh my God, ooh, because here it is, or was, I, I have a friend who's experiencing certain things, and I know that, and no one knew what I know. And months after, I'm speaking with another friend who has absolutely nothing to do with that situation. But that other friend can tell me what my friend is going through because who? Their therapist told it to them. And I'm like, what? That freaked me out. That freaked me out.
I don't know if the people can see me because, okay.
You,
I just wanted them to see my
your facial,
disappointment.
you're not there?
Yes.
I wonder what.
No, they only see when I'm talking. So I just wanted to
Oh, okay, okay.
express that my disappointment.
Yeah, like I'm serious. When I heard that, listen, I froze. I could not believe. I could not believe, like, I cannot believe Monique Gray said, I'm with you, Keoma. I'm also very protective of my space, but it is very important to have that supportive person. And I agree,
Yeah.
but who do we
Yeah.
really trust? Like when I was told the therapist, like my friend's therapist, you know, had a conversation with this other person, and I'm like, oh my God, what is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. It's I saw the question above as well, like how do we forge certain relationships? And just talking in general about protecting your space and who you allow and who you trust. Outside of profession, you listen to people. If people talk to you about other people, they're going to talk to other people about
you. Definitely.
okay? If somebody is talking to you and say, oh, but you ain't see what Keoma do? You ain't see that she was down the road then? But that person calls a name, they disclose identity. If a person is speaking to you and said, boy, I had know somebody who had do this and do that, a person who has a level of discretion, like you have to listen to the way that people speak and what they do with you, they will do to you, okay? And as I said, I think everybody talks about everybody, right? I don't think that there is any one person who doesn't talk about another person, but it's always the manner in which people have conversations. If we're having a discussion and something is on Facebook, like, boy, you didn't see what happened to this person? Like, oh my God, like, I'm talking about the person, but I'm not gossiping or I'm not creating stories. I'm not creating a false narrative. Okay, so when we say talk about somebody, we mean lying about a person, putting a person's business outside that's not public information that you shouldn't be talking about. So these are things within an informal relationship, like between family and friends. Professionally, there are doctors who have malpractice, okay? I am a therapist, so I'm disappointed always to hear when therapists break confidentiality. But I don't want to scare anyone that it's a common thing for therapists. And it's weird. It's not my business to tell your business. And I'll tell you how it happens in my brain. When I'm in a room with my client, it's me and this person. Nothing else matters. It's like everything about this person that we've discussed comes to my brain. When I walk outside, that's gone. Except for when I have to write my notes. But you understand what I mean? Like, it is absolutely gone until the next time I see them, it comes back. And it's like, we're there again with each other. So it's not my business. I tell my clients, because St. Martin is so small, when I see you on the road, I'm not going to hail you. If you choose to hail me, no problem. That's your choice, because you then are okay with knowing or showing people that you know me. But other than that, I don't know if people know I'm a psychologist. They don't want, if I hail you, people are going to make conclusions, but that's my approach to therapy, because it's always about protecting my client. My job is to protect my client. That is my duty. It is my charge, and I take it seriously. That is it. And the people out, let me say this, for people in mental health, I'm not going to put my head on a block for anybody, but the team we have currently there, these are people who are professional. The psychologists, the psychiatrists, the people there, they're professional. As I said, I'm not putting my head on a block for anybody, because I don't be with everybody every day, but we take our jobs seriously. So I'm really disappointed to hear about this person, but that isn't the case for all therapists, because most therapists, as with most people, take their jobs seriously. And you foster trust in a relationship by being honest and being transparent. And if you don't know if you can trust someone, listen closely and keenly to them. And don't disclose all your information on the first meeting. Like in like the first time you go out on a date with somebody, even if it's a friend for a lunch date, give them tidbits until you can learn to trust. You're muted.
That may be a bit difficult. You said on your first appointment with a therapist, do not divulge everything. There are some people, there are some of us who are so heavy, and the moment and I can tell you, I can be that. There are times where I'm so heavy and I just want to like just so it's very hard. It's I don't use the word hard. It's a challenge, I would say, especially when you're walking around with so much and you finally find a space where you can just, talk and have that feel that level of comfort, because sometimes all we want to do is just talk and know that someone is listening to us, But I'm looking at this at my phone. The time.
I just wanted to clarify. When I said don't divulge everything, I meant in informal relationships. That's why I said, like, when you go out, like on a lunch date with a friend, and you're just meeting somebody, protect yourself. Like, don't go. But with a therapist, there is confidentiality there, and that is your time, your space. Do whatever you want. Be as heavy as you want, because your therapist is prepared for anything that you bring to the table.
Okay, we're talking about, we're hearing mental illness, and we started this conversation by saying there's a stigma, right? I saw Paul Spann. Paul Spann is in Washington D.C. in Upper Marlboro, and he said, that is long gone. But for persons like Paul, we're in the Caribbean, and this platform is to allow the reach to throughout the region. And while it may be long gone to so many countries, developed countries, it's still a stigma here, because the reality is, the moment we hear mental illness, we are thinking someone is crazy. But Zoya, with two little sentences, what comprises of mental illness? The last time we highlighted anxiety. If you can just highlight for persons, it doesn't mean that you're crazy, but just mention a few little things that constructs of mental illness.
You said two sentences.
Two sentences.
Mental illness is
three.
Maybe.
Okay.
Mental illness is a dysfunction in your day-to-day life, where you're not functioning at your optimal capacity. And that can manifest through your mood, that's sadness, anger, anxiety. It can manifest through a more chemical disorder, where you may have a psychotic disorder, and psychotic episodes. This is the most scary one, where people are really afraid of this one, because this is where we see people on the street, and it's very disheartening and sad. It can manifest developmentally. We have autism, we have developmental disorders, and it can manifest in your personality, where we have people with personality disorders, people who are narcissistic, people who are borderline, people who are dependent.
For persons who do not know what narcissistic is, can you just let persons know that, please?
Narcissists get a really bad rap in society because their disorder manifests in a way where they do hurt people in their lives majority of the time. A narcissist is somebody who is never wrong. You're always the problem,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to maintain a level of superiority and a level of importance where they have to, in a sense, keep you inferior in order to feel that. But narcissism comes from a deep hurt. It comes from a deep place of inadequacy that is usually developed in childhood. So when people talk about narcissists, it's really bad because it does manifest in a damaging way to the people in their lives.
Mm.
And the most times you can tell a personality disorder is within relationships. A personality disorder most times manifests in a relationship because it's usually projected
Mm.
onto another person. Um, so a dysfunction in your day-to-day life, and it can manifest through mood, chemical imbalances in your body,
Mm-hmm.
developmental stuff, and personality as well. There are other, we use the DSM-5. If anybody wants to do research, the DSM-5 is there. You can see all of the psychological disorders, but those are the typical ones we see.
What about anxiety? You said in our last live during COVID, you know, you saw a lot of persons expressing anxiety. Is that considered a mental illness?
So yes, you can be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder,
Mm-hmm.
but we always say we try to look at mental health less as categorical, like are you, aren't you, and more dimensional, like where on the spectrum do you fall? Because in our day-to-day, most of us deal with anxiety at some point.
Yeah.
When you have to, when we before we come on the live, we'll be like, bye. I a little nervous, right?
Yeah.
That's a little bit of anxiety. And most times we have a desire to perform well and do well. So we feel the butterflies, we start to sweat.
Mm-hmm.
We like, boy, I just can't wait till this is over so I don't feel this no more. We all do experience a certain level of anxiety. But when it becomes like you cannot function in your day-to-day life, when your sleep is disturbed, when you're having panic attacks, when your life is literally disrupted, that's when we go into diagnosing you with the disorder. So most people don't necessarily need a diagnosis, just like most people don't need medication, but it's good to call things by their name because you might be experiencing a low level of anxiety and need to be treated for that, but not necessarily be diagnosed for
Okay.
it.
Okay, so Paul corrected me and he said this is where we mentioned about the stigma. He said, "No, I'm not saying it's gone. I'm saying I'm happy our generation and our young and younger are addressing and attempting to strip the stigma." That's
Yes.
what he's saying. And I think and one way of how we attempt to strip the stigma is by having conversations like this. We need to be able to normalize the conversation. We
Yes.
need to be able to have this conversation every day or as much as possible and let persons know, not because you may have a down time mean that you're crazy, not because someone say mental illness or you need to see a therapist means that you're crazy, you know. So Zoya, we touched base on various things. So all of what we are touched base on is, would you say there were triggers to various aspects of mental illness, right? So
Mhm.
we're all faced with so many challenges. Before COVID, we were faced with challenges. After in COVID, we were faced with challenges. And now that we are quote unquote re-entering slowly into society, I mean, we're going into society loaded with issues. Persons aren't working. They're not earning. They cannot pay their bills, but every month their bill is still due. How do they cope with all of that? So we grieve in various ways. But some persons, like myself, I experience highs and lows. And again, I said, I allow myself the permission. When I'm low. I go through it. I allow myself to go through it consciously. And I remind myself rather to remain in control. But when I have my highs, I'm like a horse. Like I am, and I do not have many lows, but I'm like a horse. I go, 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 day and night. I'm going, going, going. You know, and for me, that's how I am naturally, right? But there are some persons who just cannot cope, and they chose suicide. Let's just touch base on suicide. I'm not too sure of the statistics of the entire region, but what I do know, over the past several years in Guyana suicide rates just went insanely high. I believe it's within this hemisphere, it was the highest, the country with the highest suicide rates numbers in this hemisphere. And when it comes to, I will mention this intentionally. I mention this intentionally. I mentioned before I'm from Guyana. I left Guyana when I was 9 years old. And while I lived there, I would hear, I know these stories, of persons who back then it was poisoning. You will find a husband will poison his wife, or maybe, I don't know, she cheated on him or something went wrong in their household. He will poison his wife, poison all the children, and then kill himself, And over the years, I think it was in 2016, I was in Guyana. And I was told this story. Well, it was one of someone close, someone I knew, their girlfriend, cousin, right? He was like 15 or 16 years old. His girlfriend broke up with him, and they found him hanging from a tree. And I'm like, woo, woo, what? Like, how can someone do that? Right? And then there's another story of this young couple. I think they were living in Mahaika. This is an area in Ghana. Both of them weren't working, they were unemployed. Of course, we all know, this is why we're having this conversation. When people face with unemployment, they're not able to care for themselves as they need to. So the lady said, you know what, she's gonna look for a job. The man didn't want her to look for a job, but she still went out. So she got a job, I believe it was as a security guard at a police station. So when you enter the police station yard, there's a little booth there. He went in broad daylight and he took a machete and cut her neck off right there in broad daylight. So there is suicide. I mean, talk to me, talk to us. Oh, let me this too. I think here locally, I don't know if you heard of it, but there was a suicide case here locally as well. I'm not too sure of the details in St. Martin, but let's touch base on suicide. And what caused us to even go that route?
Suicide is a person's attempt at peace.
At peace.
At peace.
That's interesting. So not killing themselves, is that they're seeking peace.
No, yes, they're seeking peace. I've shared this on Facebook, so I think my mom may be okay with me saying it on live. My mom had a toothache a few years ago, and she was trying to book an appointment with the dentist, but it was taking a long time. And so she just had medication for it. And I went to school, and my hours were long at school. I came home at night, and my mom was like, so, girl, I almost overdosed. I took so much painkillers. And she was like, I just wanted the pain to stop. Because if anybody has had a toothache, they know that pain. It's a lot. And I got the revelation that this is what people feel emotionally, right? We always compare, because in order for people to understand psychological, emotional topics, we kind of compare it to physical ones, because we all have physical ones, right? We all get it. We're all okay with physical illness and healing and stuff. People who attempt and commit suicide are trying to get away from the pain. Again, I don't know the statistics, but the research is out there. Majority of these people don't want to die. There was this one story of a guy who jumped off of a bridge in the States. I think it was the Golden Gate Bridge, I think it was. And he said the minute he jumped, he regretted it. He survived, because sometimes people do survive. That's why we say attempted suicide. He said he regretted it. And you hear a lot of stories like that. People who attempt and survive, they tell you the minute they did it, they were like, I don't want to do this anymore, because they realized the finality of their decision. So people shame people who commit suicide, which is another challenge that we have with society, where it's like, oh, but why you want to kill yourself for? God give your life, take care of yourself. This is not addressing the issue that the person is facing. Shaming them about the decision that they're considering doesn't do anything for them. Why does a person feel the need to take their life? Let's address that. They're stressed. They don't have money. They've just lost something of 10 years, of 20 years. They feel like they have no purpose. This is the human issue. So let's talk about that. The second part of that is letting people know that they are wanted here. A lot of people feel like they aren't wanted, they aren't loved, and if I would go, it wouldn't matter. So we also have to and this goes back to our earlier conversation about community, where people believe that they are loved and that they are wanted. And going back to the primary support group, if a person is contemplating suicide, has suicidal ideations, we call it, suicidal thoughts, we always check first for a primary support group. Because if you have a family and people who love you and who you love, it's much less likely you will commit suicide, because you're thinking of your family, you're thinking of the people who will miss you. We also consider religious beliefs, because a lot of people, don't want to disappoint God, and they want to be grateful for the life that they're given. So understand that a person doesn't just get to suicide by happenstance. It's not your place to shame somebody for a decision they want to make. If a person comes to you and says, I want to take my life, understand first that that person trusts you, or that person is desperate, or both. Be careful with what you do with that. Figure out what's going on. How can I help you? Give that person your number. Take that person's number. Call them every 10 minutes. Another good way to support somebody who is in a crisis when it comes to suicide is to develop a contract with them. Promise me that you will not hurt yourself tonight. And by tomorrow morning, I'm going to come check you, or maybe we can go to dinner, we can talk about it, because that person just wants to feel heard. And don't lie. It's probably not going to get better, right? If you lost your job, I can't get you a job right now. It's probably not going to get better, but I got half a bag of bread home. Come get out of half. So you going to have a quarter, I going to have a quarter, right? Whatever challenges. If the person has kids, give me the kids, right? Mental health is 520-5556. That is our crisis line, okay? Our support line is 311. Call somebody. You are better here than anywhere else. That is the I'm telling you who are listening, and I'm also telling you what to tell people in your life. But we all have to create that space of safety, where people feel comfortable enough to even come to us and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. So understand that it's not your place to shame people for what they feel. A person understands what they're dealing with is a big deal. Support them.
I think if someone wants to, should I say, counsel someone, or say, you know what, no, suicide, we won't kill yourself for joy, you have to live. I think if you're encouraged, just to add to what you said, if you're going to encourage someone and tell them why, why you need to be alive, like the importance of you, do not just react based on your first reaction, Really think before you talk. Let that person know how valuable they are. Not valuable to the society or because your parents want you or even to your children need you. How valuable they are for themselves. Because for me, as I said, everything comes back to me. Because one
Yes.
day children will grow up and leave their parents anyway. They will leave me anyway. So how valuable am I to myself? You know,
Yeah.
what value do I bring to this family? Not, oh, you need them because the family need you. No, not because that in itself is a burden. Or
Yeah.
your family need you.
Yeah.
What value am I to my family? Tell them that. Tell them how good they are. What value they bring to the world, or what value they bring to this particular job or a friendship. You know what they mean to you. You know, you have to
Yeah.
be able to really think before you talk. We have to
Yeah.
think before we talk, and not just react based on our first reaction.
Yeah.
I will go into a question. Let me see. Someone asked, can you all oh, before I tap this question, I saw there's currently 67 comments, and I'm looking, but honestly, I'm noticing when I'm scrolling, one, two, three, four, after it shows me four comments on Facebook, right? So after that, I lose it, but I saw some comments, but I honestly do not know how to get back to them. I don't know, and I don't want to touch anything.
Facebook is weird.
You know, I'm just seeing four comments here, and when another person comments, one goes disappears. uh yeah, one disappears and another one shows up. So someone, Polo Ralph said, yeah, well, I have been in that situation, wanted to take away my life because of religion. So he said he has been in this situation and he wanted to take away his life because of religion. Well, Ralph, well, Paulo, I really and truly hope this conversation is resonating with you, and know that
Yeah.
you are encouraged to reach out to us if you need to. All right.
Yeah.
So, one person asked this question, Zoya submitted this question. Can you all touch on the topic of betrayal and the death of a marriage? At times, the betrayal and damage occurs, and we are not even afforded the opportunity by the other person to have a discussion about what took place. I will read that again. I think I need my glasses here. Yes, people, I do
Yeah.
wear glasses, right? It says, can you all touch on the topic betrayal and the death of a marriage? At times, the betrayal and and damage occurs, and we are not even afforded the opportunity by the other person to have a discussion about what took place.
Yeah, I think this kind of also touches on the earlier conversation about closure,
Mhm.
not having that closure. And remember, we said grief is not only for death, but loss of other things as well. And depending on, I don't even think depending on the length of the marriage, because if you love somebody, you love somebody, right?
Yes.
Um, but again, acceptance, the person is gone, and if they are not affording you the opportunity, it seems like they don't want to have anything to do with you. That might sting your ego a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. You can rub it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is somebody who you've shared a life with, and now it's like excommunicated, strangers, probably enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So accepting that, yeah, no, this person does not want to have anything to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
Another part is um, another part is understanding that moving forward and healing is for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the person does not want to speak to you. How can you move forward in that? How can you move forward with never speaking to that person again? Stop looking for opportunities to speak to them. Stop trying to drive by their job during lunch so you can maybe catch a glimpse,
Mm-hmm.
right? Stop maybe using the kids as an excuse to communicate with them unless it's necessary. Um, like there are ways in which you might seek that closure.
Mm-hmm.
Stop. Don't look for them. Don't seek them. Understand that that opportunity is gone. Remove the option.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to deal with that for a couple of weeks, just coming to terms with the fact that the option is gone. And then from there, you can, from there, my sister is being annoying. I'll say it on the live, Audra. I'm sorry, guys. You see, it's a serious topic. I'm focused, but yeah, not having the option, it might take you some time to come to terms with it, to come to grips with it. Every day you do better at not seeking the opportunity, seeking the option, and then understanding that there is life after. There is a life after a divorce. There is a life after being excommunicated, that you can move on. Your heart can be healed. You just have to take the steps to do that, right? So if you had a happy marriage, then love that. You experienced love. You had something, right? And whatever happened, if it was infidelity, if it was finances, whatever broke it up, again, come to terms with that situation. And I said, we're not giving you 2 days to deal with this. We're not saying that you have to deal with this. No. But accept it, remove the option of having closure from the other person, and then give yourself time to do that. And then the natural process of healing will happen from there.
To add to that, the natural human tendency, we want to be respected. And I think that's where mute individual respect comes in. So from the male and for the female, you in a relationship, you may feel, oh well, not feel, even you may think that is right. That person deserves a response. You need some kind of closure. You need to explain something to me, But again, as I've been saying, everything starts with ourselves. We look for reactions, but at the same time, as you said, you will never get it. And this is just to complement everything you're saying, because you said it already. We may never get that reaction. We may never get the closure that we need. We may have so many answers, and we need to get to the point where we can say, you know what? I have to accept this is what it is. I have no control over another human being, and I have to find a way of how I can move forward and heal myself without knowing these answers. And know to yourself that you have to also individually look into yourself again, look to see where you believe, and be honest with yourself, where you went wrong. This is you moving forward, where you went wrong. What were some of the things that you did that you could have done differently? And how do you move forward now? You have to allow yourself to go through that process, to allow you to identify within you where you went wrong in your perspective. Be honest with yourself. And now, how do you move forward better? You have absolutely no control over that other person. You only have control over yourself. And while you may want closure and an explanation from someone, from the other person, the reality is there are times where you just may not have it. But you cannot be stuck in that space. You have to move on and know that you have your own strength and you can live again. You're not going to die, right? So that's one of the questions. Let me go to another one, because in 10 minutes, we'll be off of here. Someone said, my question for Zoya, how do we create an environment which allows our children to introspect and identify with their inner voice? So I'll read this again. How do we create an environment which allows our children to introspect and identify with their inner voice?
First, as a parent, you have to understand what that means. What does it mean to be introspective? Thinking, understanding yourself, paying attention to yourself, being self-aware, developing insight. You have to know what that is first, because a parent can only teach a child what they know, right? So first, by creating the environment, is for you to know. And there are lots of ways. As I said, if you don't want to or don't feel like you necessarily need formal therapy, there are online resources that can teach you these types of things. Um, it may not be as personal and catered to you, because a therapist is catered to you. A therapist works with you, your personality, who you are, to help you develop certain things. Um, First, parents have it to be able to teach it. A second way is allowing a child to express themselves.
Mm.
Caribbean parents, are you listening? Allow your child to say, no, I don't want to. I don't feel like it. Can I do it later? All of those statements, phrases. It does not mean that you have to grant your child every wish that they have. Oh, I don't want to do it, mom. Do it yourself. No, we're not saying, oh, then no, you go and do it yourself. No, allow your child to express themselves, what they feel. If a child is being disrespectful in a way, because saying no and saying I don't want to is not being disrespectful. A child saying, I don't want to do it, mom, go do it your effing self. Now that is being disrespectful, because they're using language that isn't right. Okay? So just making the statement, mom, I don't want to do it right now, is not being rude. It's not being disrespectful. That is the child expressing how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
As a parent, if they have to do the task, you let them know, okay, honey, mommy understands that you don't want to do it right now, but if you don't do it now, you'll have to do it later. You'll have less playtime. We'll have to do it. You have to do it now, because then if we don't, you'll be late for school. It's not good to be late for school. You want playtime because you like playtime. You expand the child's knowledge by explaining to them why it's important to do this task now. But also realize, if the task does not have to be done now and they can probably do it later, say, okay, you can do it after you play this round, but you have to do it after this game. That way you teach the child also discipline. You have that, you respect their feelings, they were able to express themselves, but you also teach them discipline, that after this round of your game, I have to pause and I have to go do something, okay? Another way is respecting a child's no. If a child does not want an aunt or an uncle to hug, touch, or kiss them, do not force your child to do so. Respect your child's no. If your child does not want you to kiss upon them and hug upon them, okay, honey, you're not in the mood today for all my cuddles, fine, right? Respect a child's existence. The child is a human being, right? There are certain ways that you don't touch your child if they're not comfortable with it. You respect your child's expression. And if your child is being rude, also say, I get what you're saying, but there are better ways to speak. Because then you teach your child the difference between how you interact with people. Don't just say, oh, you ain't supposed to do that because I is your mother. I don't have to do anything. You being my mother, I don't want to do it. I don't care if you're my mom, right? But if you explain to them why, hey, don't say it like that, don't speak like that, because then as you grow older, you won't know how to be in relationship with people. You won't know how to communicate with people and express yourself with people.
But Zoya, if I may interject there, you said parents should explain to their child why. And let's be realistic. Let's be really realistic. A lot of times parents will tell children things and they themselves doesn't even have an explanation as to why. If you ask them, go ahead.
No, this is why I said the parent first has to, and also parents, it's okay to be honest with your kids. You have to be honest. When you make a mistake, you have to apologize. Go to your children and say, I know I wasn't supposed to yell. Mommy came home and mommy had a bad day. I wasn't supposed to take it out on you. I'm sorry. That's teaching your child how to take accountability. further, if you don't know why something, say honestly right now, mommy don't know. I don't understand why, but as soon as I understand why, I will let you know. I will give you a reason. But right now, mommy just needs you to cooperate with her because of whatever is going on.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. We, as you mentioned, Caribbean parents, because a lot of times I call it a inherited mentality. A lot of Alicia said exactly my struggle with my son sometimes. Um, a lot of times because, well, Caribbean, should I say Caribbean mentality? I don't want to put our people in a box, but this is how I know it. Don't do this, don't do that. And I was always the child to ask why not? And most of the times, you have absolutely no reason to give me. You cannot
Yeah,
even tell me why because I'm your XYZ and I say so. But a lot of times you find it's repetitive is because their mother or their father told them not to or do it this way, and they have their children and they just tell the children the same thing. Because for me it's like an inherited situation. But
yeah,
if you have to really ask that person, but why, they
yeah,
can't tell you. And you mentioned if your child says I don't want to hug you right now or don't kiss me right now, I personally I like to know why. And I believe when you ask a child why, it allows them to go into their feelings and express themselves. You know what? I'm feeling a little down right now, or so whatever it is. But just saying, okay, you know what? I don't want you to want me to hug you. Okay. But I would ask why. Or if at that moment I would just leave you, but after a while, I want to know why. Like, what really were you feeling at that moment
mhm,
that caused you to be that way?
yeah.
Agree with that?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think for me, I do this with my nieces and nephews, like
Mhm.
stop running because if you run too quickly, you can bump into something and hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Stop climbing on the chairs because so it's always giving the kids a reason why so that they also develop understanding.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so it's
I
really
agree with
important.
that. So Ryan Adamus said, when you put your trust in someone and you get to find out the hard way that they live a lie from people that claim quote unquote Jesus, makes you question a lot of things, right? And then NK Smile said, how how do we know we may not get it if we don't go looking for it to the full potential? I'm not too sure what they were responding to
I think
directly.
that was pertaining to I think you were talking about the divorce at that point.
In a relationship.
Yeah.
Hmm. How do we know we may not get it? Well, if you were getting it, you would have gotten it. I mean, you can say, hey, you can go to your significant other, or it doesn't mean that significant other only, or the person who you think or believe done you wrong, and ask for an explanation. But if that person is reluctant continuously, what do? You cannot kill them. You cannot do anything. You have to just accept it. And maybe that person themselves who you're seeking that reaction from or that explanation from, maybe they themselves are searching and trying to figure out things on their own too. Because let's be realistic. A lot of times when we are in a situation, we feel, oh my God, I am feeling this, I am feeling that. But do we even think about what the other person is feeling?
Yeah.
What the other person is going through? Maybe the person feels so embarrassed that they cannot even face us or face you. They too need that time to, yeah, he said, this person said, yes, the closure, because there are only certain things we can answer on
On
outside
our
our
own.
own,
Yeah. And
so
that's why we talked about that, you just might not get it and you have to be okay with not ever getting it and not having the option open. Close the option off. You're not going to get it.
yeah.
And that's what you're telling yourself. And as I said, that might take you a little while to come to terms with, which is okay because it's a process. But if you leave the option open, then you leave. And I saw somebody earlier said expectations are hard. That's something I personally had to learn how
Mm.
to manage my expectations because for me, I'm such a high achiever that I want people in my life to sometimes do the same. And it's like I had I had to learn the hard lesson that the world won't treat me the way I treat the world.
Mm.
I had
You need to say that again. You need to say that again.
that the world won't treat me like I treat the world.
Yes.
I've learned that. I'm learning because it's a hard lesson for me that the energy and the time and the love and the care that I give to people, it's not always given back to me. And it was hard for me because I'm like, I'm out here trying to be a good person, holding myself accountable, being honest, and you just not gonna treat me the same. And it's like, my support system had to say, Zoya, people can't give you what they don't have. And it's like, but I want it. But it's like, but they don't have it to give. And it's really coming to terms with that. You won't always get what you give. Stop setting yourself up for disappointment by setting high expectations. Don't expect anything. Don't.
I think having expectation depending on who it is, because Ryan here commented, he said, I hope Ryan is male, forgive me, but Ryan said, I mean in leaders who people put their trust in, religion and so on, give people no hope. This is one thing I personally had to realize, because we grew up and we're thinking, oh my God, these people are so authentic, they're so genuine. We could go and confide in the pastors or the leaders of a country, or even people in our own home. You know what I mean? And as we get older, we realize one thing. I think it's an inherited expectation. We inherently believe that because someone is a pastor, they have to be holy and not sin at all. They have to not lie. Everything you tell them, they will just be there to hold their highest regard. Even to parents, even to people in your home. But the reality is, they're all human beings, and the same way how you mess up sometimes is the same way they mess up, the same way. So I think what we need to, or what we should start doing, is remove the labels and the titles that we give people and see them for just a human being.
Yeah, I'll say to Ryan that don't put your trust in religion and necessarily people when it comes to religion. Put your trust in God. Relationship with God. Okay.
Whoever you believe God to be.
Yeah, but he did say like church and religion. You're right. Sorry. Put your trust in the deity that you believe in. Because the minute you start to depend on people, as Keoma said, to kind of not dictate, but to kind of dictate the way in which you approach religion and God and whoever deity you believe in, that's when you lose it. If you, let's just say, you and me are friends, you cannot go to Keoma to determine me and your friendship. You have to come to me to determine our friendship. Keoma can tell you, Zoya is a nice person. Zoya is a psychologist. You can believe her, of course, because she knows me to a certain capacity. But at the end of the day, you have to come to me to establish exactly who I am and who I am in our relationship. Okay? So this kind of the same thing with God and deities, that if you depend on people all the time, because people fail. And yes, there are people in churches and religious organizations who do put on this holier than thou, but that does not speak to God. It does not speak to the deity. It does not speak to that deity's purpose. At the end of the day, that remains pure. People can take it and flip it, but that remains pure. So be careful where you're setting your expectations to, and what you're depending on to develop that relationship. Because like I'll speak to God. God is true. Okay? If people want to take his word and flip it, you can't blame it on him. Like that, you people. But then you can't blame people and mess up your relationship with God, because then that's not fair to your relationship with God.
Mm. One thing I am learning, one thing I am learning is we may want to hold people accountable for their actions, and we may feel, oh, but you shouldn't have done that. But again, we cannot control people. We need, again, I'm reiterating, we need to be able to see and understand that people are just human beings, and they can do whatever they want to do. But it's our reaction because we are in control of ourselves. We are the one who determines who we want to engage in or not. So if someone do something to make us feel that they betray us, you have to now be in control. So if it's a pastor, a relative, a friend, a teacher, it's not how they react. Of course, how they react will disturb you, right? But how are you reacting to the situation? How do you protect yourself moving forward? How do you maintain your peace? Because we spoke about it on the self-care talk, and we spoke about boundaries. We have to be able to see beyond the perimeters, beyond the borders, the barriers of of affiliation. Oh, he's my friend from childhood. He's my brother, my mother, my father, my aunt, my whoever, or some friend. We need to be able to identify people for themselves and know that we cannot change anyone. Everyone can do whatever they want to do. It provokes us, it will, but they can do what they want to do. But it's how we respond
Yeah.
to that determines how we move forward, not together but individually. So Alicia Macpherson said, yes, yes, I believe the way we speak to our children is a conditioning of our mind from childhood. I'm constantly trying to correct my speech and to rid myself of these inherent behaviors. Definitely don't want my son to have the same experiences. However, I'm also constantly letting him know he's loved so he feels validated. I think that's very good parenting. What would you say to that, Zoya?
Yes, absolutely. Your children have to know um how you feel about them.
Yeah,
Fathers,
yeah.
express love to your kids,
Mhm.
especially your sons, because love is normal. Love does not imply sexuality or gender. Love is love. So definitely express to your children the way that you feel about them. Empower your children. Don't go on this rant of you're so smart. Go on this rant of you worked so hard. You did such a good job. Look how your hard work paid off. I'm
Mm,
so proud of you. Let your children hear this so that your children can feel validated. Your
mhm.
children can feel wanted. They can feel like they belong. They're in a warm environment. Um, so that's a really good a really good approach to parenting.
I think, yeah, I must say, when it comes to parenting, like what Alicia said, I love the fact that she was willing to admit to herself, right, that it was a conditioning from her childhood, and
Yeah.
she constantly trying to correct her own speech so as to and to rid myself of these inherent behaviors. And that's where it comes in, to accept it, to be conscious enough to realize and to accept there is a pattern here,
Yes.
and make a choice, a conscious decision. I This is what my childhood was like. These are the things I was told, but I do not want to move forward with this. I do not want to be this way to my child or my children.
Yes.
It's a conscious decision, but
Absolutely.
Alicia could not have gotten to that conscious decision had she not admitted to herself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So in closing, I mean, the conversations are always so good. We have 33 persons right now. And can you believe we're in here like an hour and 45 minutes?
Yes.
You know, but topics like this, there's always so much to say. There's always so much because we can never get enough of it. So in closing, Zoya, what would be your last words?
Remember that mental health is real, and it takes all of you who have listened today to spread that narrative that it's okay. And yeah, it's fine to go through challenges and to feel overwhelmed at times. And when we say that it's okay, it's not that you're going to stay there, because we don't want it to consume us. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the work so that we can heal, so that we can overcome, so that we can learn, as Alicia did. She is unlearning a lot of wrong lessons so that she can be better, first as a woman, as a human being, and by extension, her children will be better. So it takes each of us to take that, to have that conscious effort that, you know what, I'm gonna grow, I'm gonna evolve, I'm gonna heal, I'm gonna do better, first for yourself, and then by extension, the people around you. So do your research, right? If you want therapy, I'm at Mental Health Foundation. You can direct message me, and then we can chat a little bit of how, if you want to follow through with therapy, we can go through that avenue. Once you've messaged me privately, your business remains private. And yeah, mental health is real. Take care of yourself. And part of taking care of yourself is also recognizing where the issues are, what's wrong. Doesn't mean you're a problem or that you are bad. It means that there are things within you that you have to unlearn and heal, and just grow from there.
And I want to add to that. When you said there are things that we need to unlearn, I totally agree with you. I'm in full accord. But I want persons to know that you will have a backlash. You will have a backlash because remember, you are now, you will be highlighted as the only person who wants to be different, who is doing different. Oh, you will be asked who you think you are. You will be bombarded with these things, but you have to be strong within yourself and stand your ground because you are now grown. You're now conscious as to who you are, and you choose. This is my belief. We can create the person we want to be. Not because we were raised this way mean that we have to remain that way. You can create, we are a collage of our experiences. We are a collage of our environment, but we have the power to become whatever we want to become. We can choose. We may say something from, oh, Zoya, that I like. Okay, you know what? I'm going to take this. I'm going to take that. But I want each and everyone to know the moment you start that journey, you will have backlash. People, who you think you are? Why you have to do that? Why? Oh, because, but that's the way we were raised. We were raised like that. So you just want to be different? Yes, you want to be different because you are now not, it has nothing to do with growth as an age, but you've matured and you went into yourself and questioned yourself. And there are things now, because you're becoming who you choose to become, you are now saying, you know what, I'm going to keep this and I'm going to let that go. This doesn't resonate with me, but I'm going to keep this. And that's when you start to become whoever you choose to become, not the expectations your parents had for you or the society had for you, but who you choose to become. So be prepared for the backlashes and be resilient in it, in the process.
I'll say this. If you have a pen or if you have your phone that you can type on or something, write this down. Whoever does not respect my boundaries and my growth does not respect me, and therefore they don't deserve me.
Repeat that again.
Whoever doesn't respect my boundaries, when you say no, when you say I can't, when you say not today, and my growth, they don't respect me, and therefore they don't deserve me. Choose yourself every time. If people cannot respect that you are doing better and you are growing and that you're setting boundaries for yourself so you can protect your peace and your energy, they don't respect you, and therefore they don't deserve you. You're too much quality, you're too valuable for them. And that doesn't mean you're better than people. Don't take it like that. It means that until they cannot learn to respect you, they don't deserve to have your presence in their life. Because your peace is too important to have all of that going on.
I agree. And you owe no one any explanation.
No child.
And I had to learn that. I always felt like I needed to explain, and not with thoughts. It's just okay, I have to tell them why, I have to explain to you why. But you owe no one an explanation. You will know who is in your life that you will want to explain, because you know what, there are some changes, XYZ. You will know who that person is, but that group of people are. But you owe no one, absolutely no one, any shape or form of explanation. You become whoever you choose to become, and do that unapologetically. Yeah. So everyone, I am so refreshed by this topic, and I really and truly hope you all are too. I'm seeing only positive comments. I enjoy the engagement. Zoya, what did you enjoy the engagement?
I did. And that's why they have us here over half an hour extra, because and that's what I love. I love discussions. I love talking. I love expanding my perspective and learning as well. So
yeah, I see Henrietta Duran York Illich is here. Henrietta, I'm just putting her out there. Henrietta is, I would say, she's my mother's namesake, because my mother is Henrietta as well. But Henrietta is someone who is very known on our island. She was a minister of plenipotentiary. Her son is the current minister of Rami, minister of infrastructure, and also the deputy prime minister of the island. Henrietta is trusting me. She's a very, very good person, very nice person, always easy to talk to. So Henrietta, I'm very happy to have you a part of our life. Thank you very much. I see Nasoya Chapman. Interestingly, Nasoya is someone who grew up with me. Well, she's older than I am, but in the same street in Maikoni. And a few months ago, I connected with her, and I'm like, oh my God, this is Soya. So hey, Soya, what's up?
Soya.
I haven't seen Soya in since I was 9 years old. I haven't seen her in person. So I was very happy to see that. Alicia, thank you very much for always being here. Bernice, I see you here as well. I see Bernice said, I felt disrespected so many times through my life. I'm learning my boundaries. Oh, I missed that. The comment just gone. But we will
boundaries with no excuses. So yes, always establish those boundaries with no excuses for those who don't matter.
Monique Gray, my namesake. Yes, Keoma, it was such a wonderful and refreshing discussion. Thanks, Zoya. So guys, listen, we will be doing this more. And as I said to you, everyone in the beginning, this is not just about content, but this is a support system. This is a support group. We know what our community needs. And if there are things that you think we should talk about, let us know. Contact us. I am on Messenger. I'm on WhatsApp as well. I'm on LinkedIn. But you know, there is just so many platforms. It becomes a bit hard to manage after a while. Let's be honest. Let's be really honest. But you can text me on Messenger. Persons who have me on WhatsApp, my WhatsApp number is now like a business, so we can do that as well. But we really hope, or we really hope that you found value in today's conversation. All of our gaffing so far, our intent is to inspire, motivate, and evolve. Bridge gaps. How can we do this together? And I know we cannot do it by ourselves. We do this together. Zoya, thank you so much for sharing, for bringing value to this platform, to this conversation. And I know we will do this again. I enjoy you having you here. You're now a friend. We still have to meet up in person. And just thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Genuinely. Thank you.
So, guys, that's it for now. We will divulge, we will go through the comments and respond. So, give me about an hour before I actually tap into the comments, okay?
Yeah.
So, bye bye.
Bye. Stay safe.
Okay. This is the thing. It's like, how do I get off of this thing now? That's the thing.
I think we're still live.
Yeah, I'm gonna end it now though.